It's been almost 2 months since I made one of these should be added videos, so I figured now would be a good time to make another one. I usually try to have a theme for the series, so for this one, it'll specifically be on filling gaps in 2 tech trees. Do be aware that there will be a pretty large focus on the light tank branch for the American tech tree, since I threw together a mock-up for an improved branch a while ago, and I don't want it to go to waste. The first tank will be German instead of American though. Remember when I said that Germany still had some options for replacing the Panther II? This is one of them. It's the Leopard I B prototype, one of the proposals for the Leopard program which ended up losing. There were a lot of groups vying for the Leopard contract. One of them was Group B, led by Rheinmetall. Initially their proposal had a 90mm gun, weighed 35 metric tons, had a 660 horsepower engine, and a hydro-pneumatic suspension system. The armor was a bit weaker than what the actual Leopard would end up with. Since this was the first prototype delivered by Group B, it's referred to as the 1B. The 2B would mount a 105mm gun, and more closely resemble the Leopard we know today, though it would still lose to Group A's design. Group B's design was deemed too complex to manufacture on a decent scale. In War Thunder, the 1B would essentially be an RE-251 that has better armor, but is also slower. And since it has an optical rangefinder, it would also be a better sniper. If you want to compare it to a vehicle from another tech tree, the STA-3 is pretty similar, though the Leopard 1B is a bit better. The STA-3 would have a faster reload rate and better selection of shells, but the Leopard 1B would be faster and have slightly better armor. The hydro-pneumatic suspension wouldn't be of much use, since as far as I know, it was only capable of raising and lowering the tank, not tilting it to give it extra depression. They're both relatively light medium tanks armed with 90mm guns, so 6.7 would be an ideal place to put it. There it could fill the gap the Panther II left behind. With the Leopard 1B at 6.7, there would also be less reason to keep the M48A2C at 7.0. Next up, there's the M5 Gun Motor Carriage. With the start of World War II, the United States Army was scrambling for ways to counter the German armor threat. One avenue of approach came from the M2 high-speed tractor, also known as the Klepacki. Originally used to tow aircraft, it was going to mount a 75mm gun for use in the anti-tank role. Eventually, the 3-inch anti-tank gun was also proposed for it, so development of the 3-inch Gun Motor Carriage T1 began. There was very little room on the vehicle, so the crew rode open to the air behind the gun shield. The driver and assistant driver also had foldable shields for themselves. Weighing in at 10 metric tons, it used a 160 horsepower engine. This gave it a power-to-weight ratio of 15. It had a top speed of 61 kilometers an hour. For use in defilade, the gun had 10 degrees of gun depression. The gun shield was half an inch thick and angled slightly. The vehicle was very promising initially, so much so, it received the designation of M5 GMC, but as time went on, it proved to be too troublesome, and was cancelled. Instead, the M10 GMC took its place. As far as how it would perform in War Thunder, if you're assuming it'd be like a Scorpion with a 76mm, you're not exactly wrong, though there are a few differences. The M5 would be slower to accelerate, but it also has a higher top speed. The crew would also have more protection, with the gun shield being able to stop light machine guns. Personally, I would place it at 4.7, where it could bridge the gap between the Chaffee and the Walker Bulldog. Finally, there's the RDF LT export variant. After failing to market the RDF LT light tank to the US military, AAI Corporation turned to the export market. There was a big problem though. The XM274 autocannon was classified technology, and therefore couldn't be exported. To get around this issue, they instead mounted a new turret with the M32 cannon, which first saw widespread use on the M41 Walker Bulldog. They also developed a new APFSDS round for the cannon, which greatly improved its lethality. It probably used an autoloader, since it has a 3-man crew, but I can't find anything that explicitly states so I won't make a definitive statement. The whole of the vehicle was essentially the same one used by the hstv-l, though it didn't have applique armor, just the base aluminum. Weighing in at 13 tons, it had a power-to-weight ratio of 26.5. Its top speed was 64 kilometers an hour. I would place this vehicle at 8.7, so that the M3A3 Bradley can be moved up. The cannon was stabilized, and thermal sights were offered as an upgrade package. It also had a laser rangefinder. It would accelerate fairly quickly, but its top speed is relatively low. In terms of lethality and penetration, the APFSDS round is slightly worse than M735. I guess you could think of it as an hstv-l isn't cooked out of its mind, and is much more vulnerable to autocannons. That pretty much wraps it up. I know I used to cover more vehicles per video, but I wasn't really happy with how brief the vehicle descriptions were. I think the best approach is to go into more detail for less vehicles. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.